All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Schnick Talk Sports. Today, we're going to be talking about my predictions for the Eastern Conference standings in the NBA this year. It is 1 week after the NBA has started, but my predictions were made before the season started. I have no way to prove it, so all you can do is trust me. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. But 1 week isn't going to do much anyway, so here we go. Let's get right into it. At number 15... I have the Brooklyn Nets. Are we surprised? I mean, there's not a lot to like, simply put. I mean, they traded away Cameron Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. Great for the Nuggets. The Nets got a first-round pick out of it. Like, I understand because Cam Johnson had some value. They got a first-round pick. They could even trade Michael Porter Jr. after a year, get some value for him. You know, he's not terribly old, but, you know, with his injury history, can he really become much of anything in the NBA? He's already developed into a great role player. Obviously, he was the third best player on a championship team. But, you know, can he become into an all-star? Can he become into a superstar? If it was back when he was in high school, I'd tell you absolutely. But now there's not a lot of hope for that, and that's okay, you know, but for the Brooklyn Nets, who have really nobody outside of Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr., I don't see them winning many games, and by many, I mean being last in the conference. To go along with these predictions, I am going to show the win totals as far as the Vegas betting odds and see how it compares to my list. And Vegas agreed with Brooklyn. Brooklyn's plus minus for total regular season wins is 19.5. Last, not only in the East, but second to last in the league. So, rough. All right, moving on to number 14, we have the Washington Wizards. We have a very similar situation in Washington as Brooklyn, where there's really not a lot to like. But in contrary to Brooklyn, they at least have some young pieces that are pretty interesting, to say the least, and definitely exciting. Since it's been 1 week of the NBA, we can talk about this, but Keyshawn George has been electric. I mean, he's putting up 30-point games already. That's definitely interesting. You know, we'll see if Alex Sarr can turn out to be the potential that was the number 2 pick in the draft of last year. But the front office has problems because for some reason they think trading for CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton was the move. I mean, I understand from a veteran standpoint, you know, having those guys in the locker room, you know, CJ McCollum's a NBA Players Association guy, you know, Chris Middleton's a champion. So I get it from that standpoint, but to give up Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole, 2 young players who are, you know, prominent already, you know, will they be superstars or even all-stars? Probably not, but to give those up for vets when you really have no chance of winning, it doesn't make sense to me. For Washington, Vegas agrees with me, and they had them as the number 14 team in the conference with 20.5 wins, just 1 above Brooklyn. Coming in at number 12, I have the Chicago Bulls. Now, Chicago is where the jump is made. Now we're talking about teams that have real promise, you know, some things to really be looking forward to. It's just not really going to translate to wins just yet. Firstly, Matas Bucelis, or however you say his name, looked good in the preseason. He looked aggressive. They're feeding him the ball more. He looks like he's ready to start showing why he was taken top 5 in the draft last year. Another small but good acquisition was Trey Jones. Again, I'm a big Duke fan, so I have a little bias towards Trey, but if you watch both him and his brother Tyus Jones play in the NBA, they are both 2 of the leaders in the league as far as assist-to-turnover ratio, which is essential for a backup point guard or just any point guard. And I think he's going to do a little bit of what Lonzo Ball was doing pre-injury with the Bulls back when they were the number 1 seed in the East. The thing to really be excited for with Chicago is Josh Giddey and Kobe White could be a top 10 backcourt in the league. Now, I know what you're thinking. Top 10, that's only 1/3 of the league. That's not saying much. But you got to remember, we're talking about a team that I've projected to go 13 out of 15 in the East. So for them to be top third in anything is a good thing to look forward to. And Josh Giddey proved last year that he can really be that guy, especially with that half-court buzzer beater to beat the Lakers. I'm still upset about that. The first switch up of the video, Vegas has Chicago at 12th in the league with their over-under at 33.5. So as I said, big jump from the last one at 20.5. Coming in at number 12, we got the Toronto Raptors. Now, this is an interesting one because Toronto's definitely got to be in win-now mode. I mean, are they going to expect a championship this year? No. But at the same time, when they trade for players like RJ Barrett and Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickley, when they already have Scotty Barnes, you'd like to think that they don't want to be outside of the playoffs again. Can they make the play-in? Sure, of course. Can they make the playoffs? We're getting a little less likely of that. And I don't think they're going to be a bad team at all. I don't know how they really find their groove offensively with so many guys that can score, because there's also Grady Dick off the bench. There's also Ochai Agbaji, who's in his 3rd or 4th year. At the end of the day, there's a lot of great players with a ton of firepower, but there's only one basketball. The other thing to mention with that is someone needs to emerge as a playmaker, because Emmanuel Quickley isn't known for his passing. You know, he's born to be a scorer, simply put. Scotty Barnes was great when he needed to be at playmaking, but at the end of the day, he's not LeBron. We don't really want Scotty Barnes running the point for this team. RJ Barrett's not going to be the playmaker. Brandon Ingram is not going to be the playmaker. So they really need someone to emerge as a good passer, or the whole offense just needs to have great ball movement and spacing for them to be a real threat in not even a loaded Eastern Conference, but just any conference. Another jump in the rankings for Vegas. Toronto is listed at 39.5 wins, which is not bad to say the least. It's barely under 500, and they have them 9th in the Eastern Conference when I only have them 12th. At 11th, we got the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this is a team that I am going to be excited to watch. There's not many teams I can stay up to watch in the middle of the night when I'm here in Denmark, but this is one team that I will make an effort to watch, even though I don't even think they'll make the play-in. For starters, the obvious, we have LaMelo Ball. The kid was born to play. I mean, he and his brothers, Lonzo and LiAngelo, I grew up watching them. I'm the same age as LaMelo. My team was in the Open CIF division with the Ball brothers at Sierra Canyon. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, we didn't play them, but it was still cool following their path through high school. And you know, it's cool to say that LaMelo is the player of my class, even though technically Anthony Edwards was the first pick, but I'm going to stick with LaMelo. But moving past him, we got a lot of firepower. We got Miles Bridges, we got Brandon Miller, and now we got Con Knipple. And not only him, but we got Zion James. So as a Duke fan, I love Charlotte. Not to mention they just traded away Mark Williams, which hurt my soul. But they also had Vernon Carey Jr., which this is how you know I'm a Duke fan, because he's not even in the league anymore. But they drafted him in the 2nd round a few years ago, and he never played, unfortunately. Anyways, I'm excited to watch this team. Brandon Miller needs to take a big leap this year if they want to be good. And, of course, he was injured for a lot of last year. And we're 2 games in, and now he's already injured again. A small detail to the Charlotte Hornets that I think is very interesting is going to be their pick from this year, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Ryan Kalkbrenner was super, super interesting to me. He was a center at Creighton last year, and I remember him vividly because after the 1st or 2nd game of the season, he had a 50-point game in college, which is unheard of. A 50-point game in college is like a 70-point game in the NBA. It doesn't happen often, especially from a center. And so when that happened, I was immediately interested. And Creighton did well. I mean, they're not a blue blood. They weren't expected to go to the Final Four or anything of the sorts. But he was a fun player to watch, and I really was hoping that the Lakers were going to draft him. Unfortunately, Charlotte had a pick just before us, and they selected him early in the second round. But nonetheless, I'm excited for him to play well with Charlotte. I assume he will take the starting role, at least a month into the season, and we'll see how Charlotte can pan out. I think Kahn and Sion will be making big impacts for the team, although it might not show up on the stats because those are the types of players they are. But LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges, they're going to be superstars in their roles, and I'm excited to see how they do. And frankly, I hope they do much better than I'm predicting them to. Vegas took a little dip with Charlotte, having them at 13th in the conference with only 27.5 wins. But I would like to think they'll do better than that. Now, this one might spark some conversation. In 10th, the last place in the NBA play-in, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Now, Atlanta is always going to be a hard team to predict. I mean, they have Trae Young, who I'm a huge advocate for. I mean, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league, if not the most, with how many All-Star games he has been snubbed from, averaging 27 and 10 every year, it seems like. I think he impacts winning, whether people say so or not. I think he's very similar to Luka in the sense that he is an offensive juggernaut, but he just really lacks on the defensive end, and I think that's where people target him. But he's got some decent players around him, and we'll see how the addition of Kristaps Porzingis pans out. I mean, again, we're a week into the NBA season, and yet again, Kristaps Porzingis is sick. Now, if you don't know, last year, Kristaps Porzingis missed a ton of games due to a sickness. I mean, he was sick 3 or 4 times, I want to say, throughout the season, but there was one in particular that set it off, and he was out for somewhere around 10 games, which was unbelievable. So to see him already missing the first few games of the season because he's sick again, I mean, it really just poses the question of what are you doing to help your immune system at this point? Now, the big question is, how is he going to help if he is healthy? Because I think he will a lot. I know I'm only putting them at 10th in the conference, but I think his spacing will be super key to Trae being able to attack the rim, and then he's also a good enough rim runner and screen setter that he can play in the pick and roll and pick and pop, and he can really activate their offense with Trae in the pick and roll. Same with Chicago. Zachary Risache looks aggressive in the preseason. I mean, he's taking more shots, he's driving to the hole more, and that's what that offense needs. I mean, the ball can't be in Trae's hands all the time because it'll get too stagnant. As good of a playmaker and passer that Trae is, somebody else has got to be able to get their own bucket. And if the former number 1 overall pick of last year's draft can do that, they might be a little more promising than I think. The big question is going to be who starts alongside them. Are they going to play Kristaps Porzingis at the 5 and move Onyeka Okongwu at the 4? Another Sierra Canyon guy, shout out. Or are they going to start Risache and let him control some of the offensive duties while the starters are in and be closing games? Onyeka doesn't provide a ton of offensive stability. I mean, he does what he needs to do, but this is not a guy that we really should be throwing into a starting lineup just yet, in my opinion. Now, this is where Vegas really disagrees with me, because as I have them 10th in the league, Vegas has their over-under at 46.5 wins. 4 games over 500, but also tied for 5th in the Eastern Conference, which would be completely making it past the play-in. We'll see about that. Sorry for the light. It's getting a little dark outside now, so figured it'd be better for the lighting moving forward. All right, at number 9, we have my least favorite team to talk about, the Philadelphia 76ers. The reason that they're my least favorite team to talk about is because we really just don't know what we're getting every single year. I mean, as much as their team doesn't change that much, which it has this year, to give them credit, we really just have no idea what's going to happen due to their durability. I mean, Joel Embiid is playing less and less games every year. He went from winning MVP, which he shouldn't have, but we don't need to talk about that. Since then, he's just gone down and down and down. Paul George was injured last year, and he's starting this year injured again. he's got to be on, I don't want to say on the way out of the NBA, but he's definitely on that trajectory, although it might not be super soon. And then there's Tyrese Maxey, who you feel like should be the superstar of this team, but is probably in handcuffs a little bit due to having Paul George and Joel Embiid on his team. And so the direction of the team is really just a big question mark. And now it gets even more complicated when you throw in Jared McCain and VJ Edgecombe, because these guys are legit. And I know you're thinking, oh boy, Garrett's talking about another Duke guy. Yes, Jared McCain, I thought was good at Duke, and then he got to the NBA, and I'm like, wow, he's really good. I mean, I watched him all year at Duke. He played great. He was super helpful for our team. Then he got to the Sixers last year and was putting on a show. I mean, he was the favorite to win Rookie of the Year before he got hurt. Now, he's hurt again this year, so we'll see how that shapes up, throughout the year and if he can stay healthy. But this is more of an offensive problem than it is a benefit. I mean, we have a ton of guys that are going to be demanding the ball, and at this point, who do you give it to? I mean, Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid are all established all-stars and some even superstars in this league that when they ask for the ball, you give them the ball. There's no questions asked. But then you got guys like Jared McCain and VJ Edgecombe who deserve the ball. They deserve to shoot the rock, and they need to stay relevant, not only on this team but in this league. And VJ Edgecombe has proven that in this first week of the NBA. I mean, a 30-point game in your first career start, I mean, that's pretty unbelievable if you ask me. And this is what I mean by saying they're so hard to talk about. I mean, their ceiling could be a top 3 seed, but their floor is missing the playoffs. So where do you put them? And that's why I kind of throw them right in the middle at number 9. I think Vegas thinks similar to me, but they're giving them a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. And they have them at 42.5 wins, just over 500 at the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Coming in at number 8, we got the Miami Heat. Now, this is where things get interesting for me, because this is a team that I think most people will look at and say they're probably not going to make the playoffs, maybe even not make the play-in. I think differently. I mean, we've seen year after year of this team overcoming the odds, to say the least. And the big difference between this year and those years is there's no more Jimmy Butler. And as big of a kerfuffle, we'll call it, situation it was with Jimmy in Miami, he's gone, the distraction's gone. Now we just got a bunch of young guys that just want to hoop, And not only that, but they still got Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, 2 guys that have been all-stars before. Now, their team's a little bit more balanced this year. It's not going to be the ball in their hands all the time, although it will majority still be in their hands. So I don't see either of them being all-stars this year. Maybe Bam, if he can prove again, I should say, that he is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But there's so many guys that can score the ball, and they have such great depth this year with Nikola Jovic, Andrew Wiggins, Jaime Jaquez Jr., they just signed Norman Powell. I mean, there's a lot to like about this team. And because they got Pat Riley, because they have Eric Spoelstra, I think they got a chance to make a deep playoff run as a dark horse. Definitely not a favorite, and that's why they come in at number 8. It's safe to say that Vegas doesn't really like Miami because they have them tied for 11th in the Eastern Conference at 37.5 wins. A few games under 500, and simply put, almost not even making the play-in. So I guess we'll see. Now, this is one that I'm excited to talk about. At number 7, the first play-in team and the team with home court advantage, the Indiana Pacers. Now, I know what you're thinking. They just lost Tyrese for the whole year. They got rid of Miles Turner. Well, I shouldn't say got rid of him because he just left. But they don't have their 2 of their 3 best players from their finals run. No way they're going to be this high. And I can't hate you for thinking that. But, I don't know. A team that has gone to the finals and an Eastern Conference finals in back-to-back years is not going to miss the playoffs, in my opinion. Now, without Tyrese, they have a lot of identity crisis, for sure. Who's getting the ball? Who's doing the playmaking? Who's doing the scoring? Who's getting the ball in crunch time? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Andrew Nembhard has been very promising in his first few years in the league. I mean, he dominates the Lakers every time he plays us, but At Gonzaga, he was a really good player, and he was contributing on a championship caliber team, and he's doing just the same on the Pacers. And now that he'll be in a starting role, controlling the offense for the majority, I think he's going to be doing a really, really good job and make a big leap that some people might not be ready for. The other one to talk about is Aaron Nesmith. Now, if you didn't watch last year's playoffs, I feel sorry for you, because Aaron Nesmith was something to watch. I mean, I think it was game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks where he went insane in the fourth quarter and overtime. I mean, he was hitting 3 after 3 after 3. I'm sitting here watching this game. I didn't even know this guy could hit threes. Not to mention, this guy's making 6 in a row, 5 in a row, something insane in the last few minutes of that game to help them not only force overtime, but win the game. Now, here's where things get a little more real. I mean, without Miles Turner, they didn't sign anybody crazy in the offseason or trade for any centers. So what does their center rotation look like? I mean, I don't know that they even have a solidified starter at center. I know they've been starting Isaiah Jackson, who, frankly, I didn't even know was a center. I thought he was more of a 4. But they have 4 centers on the roster that they're going to be rotating through, and it'll be interesting to see who shines above the others, for sure. Now, I know I have them ranked pretty high. I've said a lot of good things about this team, but let's not get it twisted. They're not making a deep playoff run this year. I mean, Pascal Siakam is a phenomenal player, but I don't think he's leading this team definitely past the first round. I mean, will they make the playoffs? I would like to think so, especially if they do become the 7th seed. But to overcome, a top 3 seed, I don't buy it. Similar to Miami, Vegas doesn't agree with that either. I mean, they have Indiana, again, tied for 11th with Miami at 37.5 wins, and I can't really blame them for it. Now we're getting into the teams that are going to make the top 6, which is not in the plan, at least according to my predictions. And we start at number 6 with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I want to put this early on the internet and say that I am a Giannis Antetokounmpo stan. I think he's one of the best players in the league. He's been a top 3 player in the league the last 6 years, it seems like. I mean, he's been unstoppable year in, year out. And regardless of who's on the court next to him, he is shining above others. And I think he's a great, great player and leader, especially for this Milwaukee Bucks team. Now, let's be real. There's a lot of question marks on this team. They traded away Drew Holiday to get Damian Lillard, and then they cut Damian Lillard. So now they have no point guard. They just signed Miles Turner, which a gut punch to Indiana will be great for them, but losing Damian Lillard for it, I don't know. I mean, I know he tore his Achilles, and maybe they're trying to win now to prove to Giannis that they're still, locked in on winning now as long as he's in his prime. But it's going to be a little shaky this year for sure. Going along with making him happy, they did sign 2 of his brothers, both of which will definitely not play on this team. But, they're trying to make him happy. You can't fault them for that. As far as guys on the court go, it's going to be definitely hard for Giannis. I mean, there's no all-stars on this court besides him. I don't even know if there's any guys potential to be all-stars at any point in their career on this team. It's going to be brutal when Giannis is not at his best, and even when he is, I mean, he needs someone to step up as the second fiddle, and frankly, we don't know who that's going to be. With Damian Lillard gone, it's evident that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be the guy to be taking the ball down the court, and we'll see what role he can step into, honestly. I mean, I liked him when he was in Houston. Obviously, that was a whole big situation. Same with Cleveland. But now he's got a new situation in Milwaukee. I think he's given the opportunity to be able to, be him, score the ball, do what he needs to do. And there's a big ceiling with Kevin Porter Jr., but the floor is pretty low as well. Now, they do have a ton of depth, and I can be the first one to admit that. They have Gary Trent Jr., yes, another Duke guy. They have A.J. Green. They signed Miles Turner. They got Bobby Portis off the bench. They got Taurean Prince. They got Kyle Kuzma. I mean, they got some guys. You know what I mean? But the truth is, none of these guys are going to be the guy in the playoffs unless it's going to be Giannis. I want this to be abundantly clear. I just said a whole bunch of negative things about the first team that I have to make the playoffs. And that just shows you how good Giannis is. I mean, I still think he's going to finish top 4 in MVP voting this year, just like he does every year. And for the first time since number 14, Vegas finally agrees with me and has Milwaukee at number 6 with 43.5 wins. At number 5, we got a team that I love to watch, and that's the Detroit Pistons. I'd like to say that I've watched the Pistons more than most. I mean, I've had Cade Cunningham on my team in fantasy multiple times, and I love watching him play, and I love rooting for him. I mean, when he was at Oklahoma State in college, I was watching a lot of games, and I was excited for him to get to the NBA because, simply put, he's just another big guard that I think can dominate and play bully ball when he needs to. And he's proven that, making his first All-Star last year. And while it was his first appearance last year, the big question for him is, can he make his first appearance as an All-NBA player? Because if this team wants to make a deeper playoff run than last year, which was a first-round exit, he needs to be that guy, even more so than last year. Simply put, I think this is a great team as far as youth and experience meets together to create a great bond. I mean, they signed some veteran players in Duncan Robinson, Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert, and then they have the young guys ready to go. Asar Thompson, Ron Holland. We'll see what happens when Jaden Ivey comes back, but he was looking great until he broke his leg last year. The other guy that I really like on the Pistons is Jalen Duren. And again, I watched him at Memphis in college when he was playing for Penny Hardaway. He looked great, and I was excited to watch him in the NBA, and he's been doing well, but I still don't think he's really gotten over that hump where he needs to be that guy as far as the pick-and-roll duo for Cade Cunningham and really just finding his own offense either from the post or in the paint. I love the grit that this team has, and I think the continuity from last year is going to only push them further, not only in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. So that's why I have them as high as I do. And again, Vegas agrees with me, having them tied for 5th with 46.5 wins, although they did have them tied with the Hawks, which is a little interesting to me. At number 4, we got another one of my favorite teams to watch, and that's the Orlando Magic. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, I wonder why it's his favorite team. Yes, their best player is a guy from Duke. What can I say? Duke is one of the best colleges in college basketball, and we are the blue blood of all blue bloods, and we produce the most NBA players year in, year out. I don't know what you want me to do about it. But moving forward, yes, Paolo is that guy, and he needs to be that guy for this team to really thrive. I mean, they just traded for Desmond Bane, which was a huge pickup, and it better be huge if you're trading away 4 first-round picks. I mean, come on, man. We got Luka for 1. Like, I know Anthony Davis is a superstar, but we got him for 1, and Desmond Bane went for KCP at 4? Man, the Magic are desperate. And that just goes to show you how much they care about this team. They already signed Paolo to his max rookie extension. They signed Franz Wagner to his extension. I mean, they have a ton of money loaded into their top 3 guys. So you better hope that they're going to be good. This team is very young. They don't have a ton of experience outside of their first round exit to Boston last year. But they have a ton of youth, and I think that they are going to be able to take a big leap this year. And that's their whole starting lineup. I'm talking about the big 3 that I just mentioned, along with Wendell Carter Jr. and Jalen Suggs. Vegas agrees with me here as we have our first 50-win team in the video at number 3 in the East with 51.5 wins. Now, here's our hot take of the video. I know a lot of you are thinking it. Where have they been? Why are they going to be so high? Yes, unfortunately, I got the Boston Celtics at number 3. Look, I get it. Jason Tatum's out. There's reports that he might come back this year. I know he really wants to. Another Duke guy, of course. But whether he comes back or not, this team's going to be good. And I hate to say it because I don't like the Celtics. I don't want to like the Celtics. But they're just going to be good. You know, they won a championship not last year, but the year before. They have the continuity from that team. But the big elephant in the room is what happens to this team now that they just lost Jrue Holiday, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis. My response to that is I don't think there's going to be a ton of offensive issues with Peyton Pritchard now starting at point guard because that dude's a bucket. We might be looking at Isaiah Thomas 2.0. And people love to forget about Jaylen Brown. Like, I know the memes are crazy as far as him having no left hand, But we're talking about a guy that is an Eastern Conference Finals MVP and an NBA Finals MVP. I mean, this dude is legit, whether you want to believe it or not. And without Tatum, he's only going to have higher usage and higher efficiency. The two big questions that come from this team are centered around their bigs and their newest acquisition in Anthony Simons. The bigs is an interesting one. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis was great for them, but the bigger one is Al Horford, in my opinion. I mean, they lose both of them. They're two of their top 6 guys, and then you also lose Luke Kornet. So now you've lost your top 3 starting bigs. Where do you go from there? Evidently, their answer is Neemias Queta. I mean, he played in, spare minutes in the last few years with the Celtics, but in the little that I've watched him this year in the preseason, he's looked pretty good. I mean, he might be the interior defender that they need in order to have any sort of production. The big question is going to be rebounding. I mean, I've watched so far, and they struggle against teams that can get offensive rebounds, and I don't think that's really going to change unless they trade for a center. Now, Anthony Simons is a big one because this is a guy with a lot of potential. I mean, I loved watching him in Portland, and frankly, I was pissed when Portland traded him to Boston. I mean, the fact that you trade away a young rising star for Drew Holiday, who's older, great player, but he's on his way down, and you're a team that's not going to make the playoffs, like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Not to mention, in the initial trade, they were giving away a first-round pick, the Portland Trailblazers were. Somehow they were able to reverse that. Maybe the league said, hey, you should, figure that out. But either way, they got fleeced on that. I mean, the pick is great now, but geez, Anthony Simons is a great player. And the big question is, how is he going to deal with being on the bench? I mean, I still think he's going to get great minutes, as he should, but coming off the bench can do a lot to your ego, He's either going to be 6th man of the year, or he's not going to be very good, and he's going to be pretty upset about it. Vegas doesn't like the Celtics at all, and fortunately, I can't blame them. They have them at 8th with 41.5 wins. And now we get into our top 2. Everybody knows it's going to be the Knicks and the Cavs. I think we'd all be shocked if it wasn't those two in the top 2 this year. I mean, they got to be the top 2 favorites to even come out of the East, let alone just be top 2 in the regular season. But who finishes where? I mean, Cleveland was unbelievable in the regular season last year. I believe they started 16-0. Just unfathomable things that they were doing at the beginning of that season. Unfortunately, this year, I think there's going to be a change, and I think the Knicks are going to be number 1. And that's why I have Cleveland just after them at number 2. Now, regardless of what happens, of which place these two teams fit in, I'm rooting for Cleveland. I'll make that very clear. Again, they just signed Lonzo Ball, one of my favorite players. I love Zoe. I'm super happy that he's back in the NBA after years of being injured. And I think he's going to make a huge impact on that team. Am I biased? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to ride for my guy, and I think he is going to be a big, big impact on winning for this team, especially coming off the bench. Now, the big question mark for Lonzo is, of course, can he stay healthy? But later in the season, do they start having him finish games over Darius Garland? DG's been pretty shaky in the past couple years late in games. And not to say that Lonzo has really proven much to do better, but I think his assets will be more valuable to this Cleveland team with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley to win games with his defense and his playmaking. Now, whether that happens or not, is yet to be determined. But safe to say, I'm rooting for the guy. I really hope that he can help this team win, and I would love to see this team go to the finals this year. They were number 1 in the East last year, and Vegas has them at number 1 again. They had 64 wins in the regular season last year. Vegas only has them at 56.5 only. So yes, at number 1, I got the New York Knicks. Now, they just fired Tom Thibodeau and signed Mike Brown, and Mike is quite the polarizing coach. I mean, he revolutionized the Sacramento Kings. They went from absolutely nothing to a fantastic team. Fantastic might be a stretch, but they were the number 3 seed in the West. That's got to say something. Although it may not have a huge impact on the regular season, the big thing with Mike Brown is how will it affect the players in the playoffs? and I think pretty well. I mean, all the guys were playing 45 minutes a night, it seemed like, with Tom Thibodeau, because that was really his philosophy. But I think the starters will be able to have more durability going into the playoffs. They'll have more continuity and trust in the bench players, knowing that they will have had more run in the regular season, getting experience in big-time games, and I think that's going to be really important for this team. The thing with Jalen Brunson, though, is he was really, really good last year, and the question for me is he going to be able to keep that up or even take a leap, or is he going to regress a little bit? And under a Mike Brown offense, I think he's going to do better. He might not have the same numbers as last year, but he's definitely going to be able to get the guys more involved, running in a Mike Brown-led offense, and I think Cat is really going to find his own on this team, even more so than he did last year. If Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges can all be stars in their roles like they have been over the last few years, I think this team can be really, really good, and obviously that's why I have them at number 1 in the East. Now, as far as the playoffs go, I'm not worried about that. It's way too hard to predict the playoffs before the season's even started, and that's why the betting odds are so high to predict a champion. But nonetheless, I would love to see the Cavs come out of the East, but I would be surprised if it wasn't Cavs and Knicks in the conference finals this year. To end the list, Vegas has them at number 2 with 53.5 wins. And there you have it. That's my list for the Eastern Conference. I know not a ton of controversial calls, but I think the Boston one's a big one. I'm really excited to see if I'm right on that, and hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, who wants to see Boston succeed? But there you have it. Thank you for watching. Next video is coming out soon on the Western Conference, and then we'll be getting into some of my predictions for the All-Stars even this year as well. But I hope you enjoyed this first video of the channel. I'm excited to keep producing more content. I'm having a great time doing this. I take a ton of time to do my research for these videos, so if you could drop a like and share, it would really mean a lot to me. Subscribe down below, and we'll see you in the next one.